Good evening, everybody. This is Lewis Jefferson coming to you live again from the Dirty Beaker. It's great to be back with everybody. We have a jam-packed show tonight, so I'm going to get right to it. We haven't been with you for a while, but there's a lot of information that I'd like to get to tonight. I might try to sparse it up and to break it up into sections because it is a bit verbose and complicated in science. I'll try to break it down as much as possible. The first one that I want to go through is ivermectin. Ivermectin is a compound that is typically used for worms and trying to eliminate the body from worms that have infiltrated into the body system. And it's been utilized for years, since about 1996 when it was developed. It was used and is very, very safe. There's been a lot of press about utilizing ivermectin for COVID. And there was a lot of controversy about it at first, but now there's some really great science, some science coming in from Israel. There's a new Tel Aviv study that's really promising that tells a lot of what ivermectin can do to really prevent long-term COVID or to prevent you from having the deleterious effects that COVID can present, either on the short term or the long term. And what I mean by that is that ivermectin has the ability to connect to what is called importin. Importins are like little dump trucks on the outside, inside the cytoplasm, inside the cell. So you have a cell, a circle, and inside of it is the cytoplasm. Inside the cytoplasm, there is a protein called importin, and that importin alpha and importin beta allows for viruses that are already into the cell to dump its proteins into the importin, and the importin takes that into the nucleus. And once that is inside the nucleus is able to and once that's inside the nucleus, it is able to manipulate the nucleus so that the nucleus is not able to transcribe what we call, the nucleus is not able to transcribe what is necessary for interferons. And interferons are very important because interferons warn other cells. So the cell that's infected by the virus sends the messages out from interferon to other neighboring cells, and those other neighboring cells begin to become alert and say, okay, we have to send out cytotoxic stimuli in order to kill the virus that's trying to attack us. So interferon is very, very important. And if you can shut interferon down, the virus can replicate and do more damage to your body. And that's what COVID does. So because ivermectin is able to interfere with importin, it is able to help in early COVID to reduce your symptoms and maybe have you asymptomatic for COVID if you take it early on. Then also with ivermectin, they have found that the ivermectin also connects with the ACE2 receptor of our cells, which is angiotensin converting enzyme 2 of our cells. And once it does that, it comes in between not only the ACE inhibitor, but it connects with the spike protein as well. So it becomes like a monkey wrench that interferes with the virus from even entering. So that's another aspect of what ivermectin does. And then ivermectin also has the ability to shut down the cytokine storm, which is what creates a lot of long-term inflammation and problems that happen in the endothelial cells, which are the blood vessel walls. It begins to shield and help for that not to occur by attacking the NF kappa B, the nuclear factor kappa B, inside your cells that stimulate cytokines to develop, like tumor necrosis factor alpha, interleukins 2, interleukin 6. These are cytokines that stimulate an immune response that creates lots of inflammation in our bodies. And so ivermectin has the ability to stop that. So we're very excited about ivermectin. Ivermectin is also very, very cheap. It's about 2 cents per dose. And you know that the vaccines can be very expensive to make. And it is pretty safe, not pretty safe, it's very safe. There's no special side effects other than maybe a rash here and there, but that's not very often. So you can use prophylactically ivermectin, or if you suspect yourself from coming down with COVID, you could potentially utilize this. Again, I'm not giving medical advice, but I would like for you to consult with your doctors and check with the science and see what you feel about that, because we've been inundated with a lot of propaganda from corporate sponsored companies and corporate sponsored media that you have to have a vaccine in order to be safe from COVID. And that's totally discounting our own immune systems, and it's discounting very proper drugs like this one that may be very, very helpful to us. Now, I opened up with To Pimp a Butterfly, and To Pimp a Butterfly I opened up with that because I did want to say a few words about Novavax. Novavax is another vaccine that's coming out. I've had several conversations about the vaccines that have come out and what we felt about them from the Dirty Beaker. And with this one, Novavax, I had made some comments that it would be coming and what I felt about it. And so I do want to give some information about that. So Novavax is a recombinant protein. And the reason why I utilized the Pimp a Butterfly, excellent music by Kendrick Lamar, along with a great jazz artist that I love a lot, that I can't think of his name at this point, but I really want to talk about the butterflies that are utilized in order to make the Novavax. So Novavax is utilizing the spike protein. It recombinates the spike protein in what we call baculovirus. And the baculovirus is just a normal virus that affects insects and even humans to a certain degree. We utilize that to enter the spike protein from the coronavirus. It's not inside our bodies, it's outside of our bodies. We infect an actual virus. And by infecting, not we, but the company that makes Novavax. And what that company does, it also utilizes that virus that is infected, the baculovirus, to infect butterfly cells. So it's pimping a butterfly in a sense. And so it uses those butterfly cells and it infects the butterfly cells, takes over its DNA, and allows for it to make inside of the butterfly cell the spike protein, the S1 spike protein. And you have all these spike proteins that you can utilize almost like a bee uses pollen and makes honey. The same thing is happening because the DNA has taken over the DNA of the butterfly cell, of the larvae of a butterfly, and it allows to make that protein. Once it makes that protein, the manufacturers of Novavax utilizes that protein and connects it to what is called a lipid nanoparticle. And that lipid nanoparticle consists of a tree bark. Tree bark is somewhat poisonous actually, but it's in small doses, but it's in that tree bark along with cholesterol and a phospholipid. So when you have that combination, you like a jack. I'll talk about jacks that my sisters used to play with, or I used to play with them. They were like these little prong metal objects that were shaped like a star. And that's how it would look. It would look like a jack, where the spike proteins, the S spikes, will be coming out of the lipid nanoparticle in the middle. So it's cholesterol, phospholipids, and that tree bark that sort of enhances the immune system to respond to it. So when that S1 spike protein hits the receptor, the immune response of our bodies creates antibodies against the S-spike protein. It's similar to what other companies are using in introducing the S-spike protein, but it's very different in the sense that we're not using a messenger RNA, which I found to be very problematic because of what I mentioned before and how I felt that the ribosomes could misread the messenger RNA. And it also does not use DNA, which what AstraZeneca was using as well, and what Johnson & Johnson was using. So if you are interested in an alternative to the vaccine, if you're interested in taking a vaccine, I haven't taken, me personally, haven't taken any vaccines, and will probably not take that one. There's another one that's going to be coming out of Baylor that I'm more interested in, that I find that could be even safer. But right now, I feel that there are other options for me in socially distancing, as well as what I mentioned by ivermectin, what I mentioned by melatonin, what I've mentioned about vitamin D, which I'll go into at some other point even more because they're finding even more information about it. I tend to use that instead. But if you do need to go for a vaccine, I would recommend, if it were me, if I had to be in the open population, treating patients and being around a lot of people, and nowadays there are government policies that are mandating locally, state, and federal that are mandating you take the vaccine, I would request to take a Novavax vaccine or something beyond, something like they're making in Cuba. Cuba also has a vaccine, but that's not what I'm going to be going over today. I'll do another presentation on Abdullah, which is coming out of Cuba on a different time. So I've gone over Novavax, and let's see. The other thing I want to go over in the news, there was a lot of information about myocarditis and pericarditis, and myocarditis and pericarditis in its relationship to Moderna and Pfizer. And, as I mentioned before, I felt that there could be ribosomal misreads, and that the fact that there was not enough safety information about those vaccines from Moderna, Pfizer, AstraZeneca, Johnson & Johnson, or even Novavax, because of the emergency use authorizations that they are receiving. It's not properly vetted through a safety profile that you do before you give it to the general population. So we see that, these things are popping up. And so now there's been 1,200 myocarditis, between myocarditis and pericarditis that have occurred. Of course, there have been, I think they noted around 300 million doses of the Moderna, Pfizer vaccines that have been given. And they find that to be a low number, but we don't even know all the other numbers that may be coming up after that, because myocarditis sometimes can be asymptomatic or it can be tragic, and pericarditis can be asymptomatic or it can be tragic. What myocarditis is, and I have here a picture from my medical school books. Here's a heart right here, and if you can see the heart there, or surrounding the heart is the pericardium, and the pericardium is like a sac. It has, if I put my fist inside a balloon, if I put my fist inside of a big balloon, the balloon would have the side that's touching my fist, which is the visceral part, which is what we call the part that's touching the tissue. And then the other part of it would be the parietal part. And then inside of that is a sort of serous fluid. And then that fluid, it allows for your heart to pump fluidly without a lot of resistance. And if you have a problem with pericarditis, your heart is not able to pump smoothly with resistance. So you get atrial fibrillation, and you can hear it like if you do an oscillation of it, like listening to it with a stethoscope, you can hear a sandy type of sound in it. When I did my clinical rotations, I would hear that in some patients that would have pericarditis. And so it can be a situation, if it causes atrial fibrillation, it could be very tragic. You can have sudden death from atrial fibrillation. So it's not an unserious matter. And then the myocardium, and I don't know whether you can see it. I can get a little bit closer. The myocardium is the muscle tissue within the heart, and there's you see muscle tissue there, and that's what pumps your blood into your lungs as well as into the rest of your body to oxygenate your organs with oxygenated blood. So it's very important to make sure that those are functioning properly. And the myocarditis can also be a very serious problem that could lead to cardiomyopathy, which can create a situation where your heart starts to remodel itself, and or the wall becomes thin and it's not pumping efficiently, so you're not getting enough blood to your body. It can be extremely serious. And so when people are taking vaccines, you have to take this into account. And be very, I should say, informed about your decisions as to whether you're going to take these vaccines or not. And the verdict is not out on Novavax yet or other vaccines. So from that said, I think I want to go to what's on my list. I think I had a list here. So I want to say something about long haulers, because this is very important, some very good science that has been coming out about long haulers. What we mean by that is that there are people that remain symptomatic with COVID, with these inflammatory situations where they are lethargic, they have this brain fog, they're tired all the time. And we're finding some great information about long haulers. And we've also found out that not only do long haulers, not only does the virus itself affect us as the human population with the long haul of COVID, people that take messenger RNA vaccines, the DNA vaccines, probably even Novavax for that matter, because if you're introducing your body to the S1 spike protein, there is an immune response to that. And with long haulers, we're finding that is happening from what is called non-classical monocytes. And monocytes are white blood cells. Monocytes often, they sort of comb the area in your blood vessels to see if there's an infection that needs to happen, or if the infection has gotten into the tissue, it can go into the blood vessel and into the tissue and become a macrophage. And all of us have macrophages that live inside of our organs and in certain tissues. And those macrophages have various names, like in the brain it's microglia, they're Kupffer cells in the liver, and it goes on, mesangial cells in the kidney. So the list goes on. But with monocytes, with non-traditional monocytes, those monocytes begin to remain for long periods of time, and they're never eliminated. And so with that monocyte lasting so long in your body, it creates a situation where you have long-term inflammation, whether it's with COVID, the actual virus, or whether it's with the spike protein. We're finding it with both. And so there's been some great research that looks at these SSR5 antagonists. SSR5 antagonists. Ask your doctors about that if you have experienced long haul syndromes from the vaccines or from the virus that are helpful. Ivermectin they're finding to have some possibilities of that having an effect on helping with long haulers as well. There's also a receptor called fractalkinin, that is also on the monocyte. And those monocytes with that fractalkinin receptor on it has it stick to the vasculature. And there's some ways that we can disrupt the fractalkinin from being fractalkinin receptor from sticking to its ligand, which is on the endothelial cell lining. So with that said, I think that's what I want to conclude with. Let me see if there's anything else that I wanted to talk about on my list here. And I think that's going to be it today. I'm not going to go into anything more because this has been quite verbose. I've gotten it done in about 20 minutes. But we enjoy bringing these Dirty Beaker series to you, and we enjoy learning more and more about the science. We want to keep everybody healthy and be able to be productive and live your lives in a productive, healthy fashion. And so we do this out of love and respect to our community, and we hope that you gain something from them. And if you have any questions for me, continue to send me the questions through my messenger, and I will get back to you individually, or I'll have a conversation on the Dirty Beaker series. Thank you all again for joining me tonight. Thank you all again for joining us tonight, and thank you again for joining us tonight, and we look forward to another Dirty Beaker series coming up soon. Have a good night.